Congress created the Chemical Safety Hazard and Investigation Board, or CSB, to investigate accidents and determine the conditions and circumstances that led up to these accidents. The board certifies the causes or cause of the accident so that similar things can be prevented. Investigative work is vital for the safety of our country's facilities and our communities. I'm from West Virginia. We have a lot of chemical facilities, and we've had several accidents. We're a global leader in chemical manufacturing, and the industry provides thousands of jobs in West Virginia, particularly in the area community of where I live. I'm committed to make sure that everybody has the right skills and technical expertise. Learning from past mistakes is critically important. Working with the communities is absolutely essential, quickly with the communities. That is one of the things we've learned. Leaving things in limbo with communities who have been affected by something immediately is probably one of the worst things that you can do to a community, and lack of communications. So I know that this has been covered a little bit, so I'm going to skip Dr. Johnson because I heard your reply to Senator Wicker, but can you describe, Dr. Sass, a time you led or participated in either an industrial, chemical, or transportation facility accident, and just to give me an example of something like that, if and have you have done that, and then we'll go to Mr. Owens.
Thank you, Senator Capito, and thank you for making time to come to the hearing. I really appreciate that. And your interest in the Chemical Safety Board and its mission. As a science and science policy expert, my role has been to work with communities, both communities on the ground, so in local areas, at state and local area, as well as different kinds of federal interest stakeholders who are interested in chemical policy, chemical regulation, as chemicals get reviewed, and the way chemicals are reviewed, are used. I also have worked with users of chemicals in downstream chains and retailers and products and consumer products. So my role has been to understand the movement of chemicals through the economy, through the supply chain, and from manufacturers to downstream users, and to work with those stakeholders to ensure that they're used in the safest way possible.
Okay, so you haven't actually been part of an accident investigation. While I have you, apparently in 2019, you tweeted, quote, "Shame on the EPA Chemical Safety Office for posturing to the American Chemistry Council, corporate toxic chemical manufacturers and polluters, exclamation, mission fail." This was in response to a tweet documenting that the head of EPA's chemicals office spoke to the industry about her commitment to, quote, "implementing TSCA in an open and transparent way," end quote. Why is that posturing?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I have to apologize that I do not recall the full context of that, but I will only comment that it is important to me, both personally and in my professional work, that the federal agencies communicate with communities, with all stakeholders, and that includes communities as well as those that receive the recommendations of something like a chemical safety board.
But I don't think that you can have sufficient implementations of something like TSCA if you're not also talking to the manufacturers and the producers and other people who are intimately involved. I mean, how can you only talk to, I mean, I started out with talking about community involvement and how important that is. How can you only talk to the community and not talk to the people who understand the processes? That seems like that's what you're saying here.
Well, Senator Capito, I agree with you that talking to all stakeholders and gathering all information is important. Again, I don't remember the exact context of that particular tweet, but I do commit to you to fully consult with all stakeholders.
Okay, so maybe we'll get ask an additional question and get some clarification.
Sure, that would be. Thank you.
So, Mr. Owens, the first question. I think you answered this, but I might have missed it. Okay. I know you've worked in this area.
Yeah, well, thank you, Senator. I appreciate the question, and I actually want to clarify a little bit of something I said in response to Senator Wicker's question. You know, well, certainly as the director of the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, oversaw emergency responses, and in fact, in my first year as DEQ director, we had an episode that was investigated by the Chemical Safety Board, a chlorine leak at a chlorine facility in the West Valley in Maricopa County. Our agency was not directly involved in it because the air quality permit was issued by the Maricopa County Air Pollution Control Department, but we worked hand in hand with them to ensure that the citizens that live near that facility, and there was an evacuation as well, that everyone was taken care of and that the appropriate information was provided to the community along the way. But more recently, as a private practitioner in Phoenix, I've worked with companies, not just in Arizona, but across the country, who manufacture chemicals, who use chemicals. And while I told the senator I've not been personally hands-on involved in an accident investigation, I've worked with the individuals at those companies who have been involved in accident individuals and have advised them on compliance with the regulations, including on release reporting requirements and on remedial actions that need to be taken by those facilities. And as part of that, have ensured that they have either stayed in compliance if they weren't in compliance to begin with, or come into compliance if they weren't into compliance to begin with.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.